You know what time it is. Grab your guards, grab your woodies, grab your glasses, do what you need to do. Kick back how you kick back. I'm going to kick back how I kick back. And let's get into some of these birth charts. Come on with it. Now, one of the first aspects of Jay-Z's chart that I want to discuss is his sun is immutable and his moon is cardinal. So with those energies coming together, he's probably someone who starts a lot of things but doesn't necessarily finish them, because remember, mutable means they're subject to, mutable signs are subject to change at any given time. They know how to go with the flow. They're adaptable. And a cardinal sign likes to start things. A cardinal sign is going to get it going. A cardinal sign is, a cardinal sign is the starter, is the flash, the first idea, the first step. That's the cardinal. It's going to get it started. Let's get it going. Let's do it. That's the cardinal energy. So when you bring those two together, yes, you're able to start things and you're able to, get things going and you're able to get people on board with you and all of that. However, and you're able to adapt. So when changes come or turmoil arises or anything like that, you're able to adapt to those situations or any situation that you're in. But being that he's lacking that fixed element, and this is just in his sun and moon, because remember I told you it's Mars and Aquarius and that's a fixed sign. But just with his sun and moon being mutable and cardinal, he's able to start a lot of things, but he may not necessarily finish them. But while he's doing those things, he's able to adapt within those circumstances. So that's why you saw like with Rocafella, when when Rocafella went down or whatever, he was able to adapt to that situation. His career may not have went the direction that he had planned on going, but he was still able to adapt. He became the president, and then he was able to flip that and really get his plan in order, and then execute his own label or whatever. But he was able to adapt in that. He was able to move. Whereas we saw that fixed element in Dame when Rocafella went downhill. It kind of took him a little while longer, or we don't even really know if he ever fully recovered from that. But it wasn't as easy for him. He was kind of stuck in that place. He was kind of angry for a very long time. He was attacking Leor. He was he was stuck in that because that was him. Like, he didn't have that adaptability that Jay-Z had. So that's why you saw Dame kind of struggling more when the label fell off, because his fixed energy, he was stuck in that. That was what he was focused on. That was his plan. He wasn't really able to move on or move forward. I mean, eventually he had to pick up and do something else, you know what I mean? But with him having a fixed sun and moon, that was a lot harder for him, because that was him. Like, that was the dream. That was what he was going for. Whereas Jay-Z was able to kind of pick up and go over to Def Jam. He didn't necessarily do well there, but he was able to adapt to the situation and keep himself in a position that he could work from and be able to finagle something else out of the situation. And that has to do with his mutable sun and cardinal moon, because with the mutable sun, yes, he's able to adapt, but that cardinal moon allowed him to jump on that opportunity that once it presented itself. Like, he was probably very unhappy with Rockefeller for a long time. So when the opportunity presented itself for him to go and do something else and be able to maybe own more of his stuff and things like that, he jumped on that opportunity and he was able to adapt. You see what I'm saying? But he wasn't necessarily able to maintain those things. He didn't stay the president at Def Jam. He didn't. Well, I'm not aware of him really bringing that Def Jam to a higher level or really doing anything to really progress or anything. He just did that for a year so he could find his way. And then he did his own thing, kind of. It was kind of a stepping stone kind of thing, but he was able to jump on that opportunity because his moon is cardinal. So he's able to jump on that, like, okay. And then with him being mutable, he's going to adapt. Okay, this is not for me, but all right, I can go over here and do this, this, and that. So he's constantly that's why you see him constantly changing and doing different things and starting things, and those things might fail, but then we hear he has 3 other things going on. That's because he has that mutable cardinal mix where he's starting things and changing things and going over here and doing this and doing that, and that's why you have that, because you have that cardinal energy mixing with the mutable. Versus Dame Dash, who's fixed. So once he gets something going, he's sticking to it. Rain, snow, sleet, hail. Like, he's sticking to it. Whatever. I'm going down with the ship. That's the fixed energy. Like, going down with the ship. Like, that's fixed energy. A cardinal sign is going to try to create a way to get out the boat, find a new way. They might find the boat. A beautiful sign probably going to jump out and just swim. They're going to adapt to the situation. You see what I'm saying? But a fixed sign is going down with the ship. Y'all know how I be. I give it to you how it is. Now, Jay-Z has his sun conjunct his Mercury. And what that does is that really speaks to adds to, I should say, why he is a rapper. Because like I said, his moon having that Venus Libra, his moon being in Libra and having that Venus influence, that's going to bring that creativity and that word play. But with his sun conjunct Mercury, that's just going to speed him up, because remember, Mercury is very fast, so his mind works very fast, and he really identifies with his intellect. Because remember, I told you earlier, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is more about the facts, the small details. Think Virgo and Gemini when you think Mercury. So all about the small details, the facts, the little things that everybody else may not notice, bringing things together, putting the pieces together, right? Is how they line up, kind of like, think of a puzzle, like just finding where each little piece goes. Like, that's that Mercury energy. And with that being conjunct his sun and that being a part of who he is, he really identifies with that, and he probably likes to talk a lot. He probably thinks a lot, so he probably has a lot of different, his mind is moving like that. Like, so that's probably why he's also able to go off the top of his head and say he doesn't write his rhymes. That's another reason why, because his brain words are coming to him like this. This is part of who he is. This part he identifies with. So he's going to make sure that he knows. He's going to make sure that he reads the article. He's going to make sure that he does the research before he goes to the interview. He's going to make sure that he knows exactly how many, he's going to make sure he knows your name, his name, their name. Like, he's going to make sure he knows all of that. He's going to make sure he knows all the little details. And he's going to be able to communicate that to you. So, that's what that sun conjunct Mercury does for Jay-Z. It's going to speed him up. It will speed him up, and it'll make him value intellect and really identify himself with being intellectual and being able to look at the small details. And he's probably a very detail-oriented person. He probably likes lists and things like that, even though he doesn't write around. His brain is going 20 minutes, hours. So probably if he doesn't write stuff down, like, he probably forgets and stuff like that, like, because his mind is going so quick. That's why he's able to freestyle off the top of his head and things like that. That's going to also bring that his affinity for words and wordplay and things like that a rapper needs. That's sun conjunct Mercury. Jay-Z also has his Venus conjunct Neptune. And with his Venus conjunct Neptune, the women that Jay-Z is attracted to, or the women that he wants to be with, she's going to have a very Neptunian qualities about her. He's probably very idealistic when it comes to love, and he probably has this ideal image of the perfect relationship. This is also why you see him and Beyonce trying to portray this image of this perfect couple with that moon, with his moon in Libra and then his Venus conjunct Neptune. He's really trying to be like, have the perfect relationship. He's trying to have the relationship that everybody wants. He's trying to be the ideal, and this may cloud his judgment sometimes with his Venus conjunct Neptune when it comes to women, because he's not seeing his relationships through a clear view. Like, he's not seeing his relationships for what they are. They have this fog over them. So he's probably been through things throughout life where he thought his relationships with people, not just romantic related, but his relationships in general, were one way, but it really turned out to be in a totally different way. And he probably saw that but didn't want to accept it, and then he ended up getting himself in deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole when it came to a love situation. And then this is probably also true of the women that he's attracted to, so they're probably not all that they're cracked up to be. No shade or anything, but like Beyonce, probably what he thought that she was when he first got with her, he probably became disenchanted over time. Like, oh, you're not perfect. No one's perfect, though. You see what I'm saying? But Neptune can give you that illusion. It can put that illusion. It can put that cloud over you when you're looking for perfection and it does not exist. You see what I'm saying? So then he can become disenchanted, and then that Sagittarius sun probably takes him elsewhere to find, some other image of beauty or perfection or whatever his image of beauty is. Probably a younger Beyonce or something. You know how that goes. Plus, Sagittarians can, be known to rob a cradle or two. But that's neither here nor there. But that's his Venus conjunct Neptune aspect, where he gets in these relationships and often probably becomes disenchanted after a while because they're not all that he saw them to be, or because he put this idealistic view on them, and that probably wasn't really who they are. So he has to be careful about that. Now, Jay-Z's moon is conjunct Uranus. Now, this jazzes up his moon a little bit because, like I said before, his moon is in Libra, so he's kind of, that can be kind of lighthearted, very relationship oriented, very communicative, but not necessarily, the deepest or the most, not necessarily the most interesting. It'll be a little boring, not a lot of most depth to it. But we bringing in this Uranus energy, so that's gonna bring some sudden ups and downs and some rebellious energy. So, some war, a little bit of that fighting energy, but not like Mars, where it's like actual fight. Like Uranus is more like the movement, like the revolution, like come through. So with that being his moon, that's how he feels. So that's why you see Jay-Z involving himself, and it's in Libra. So that's really why you see him involving himself in like the political matters, as far as like addressing like the Meek Mill situation, and didn't he do like a documentary with the guy who was falsely arrested or whatever? I can't remember the guy's name, but he did that. And then didn't he have on like the 5% change? He's been affiliated with like a lot of different movements. He speaks a lot about, the economic struggles in the black community and things like that, and trying to, kind of in his own way educate, his people a little bit, and give them a little bit of the information that he's learned over time through his music, because remember, it's in Libra. So he's doing that through his music. So that's why you see that. That's why you see that from Jay-Z, where that's where he's has that rebellious side to him. That's why you see him kind of going against the grain. Because what we know of Jay-Z, he's not really against the grain kind of guy. He kind of plays by the rules. He kind of, puts on the airs. He plays the game. Like, straight up, he plays the game. He's going to talk politely, and he's going to say all the right things, and he's going to make sure he has his wife by his side. He's very, clean cut, very cookie cutter. But with that moon conjunct Uranus, he has to rebel in some form. He has to be different in some form. He has to be unique. And he needs that. It's conjunct his moon. It's not his sun. He needs that. So that's where that part of him comes in, where he speaks about things like that, where he's doing the jail reform stuff, and he's speaking on the Meek Mill situation, and he speaks on a bunch of different situations. And you remember he was, didn't they say he like stabbed someone over a female or something? Moon conjunct Uranus in Libra. He stabbed, I don't know if it was over a female, but he stabbed dude over something. That's that moon conjunct Uranus energy. Mm-mm-mm. Also, with his moon being conjunct Uranus in Libra, this can make him very detached. Because remember, Uranus is a very distant sign. It can also be detached, and Libra can be superficial. So, with all of that being in his moon, it may be very hard for him to connect emotionally with someone and actually stay within it and make it last over time. It's probably very hard for him to do because he naturally wants to detach and be more of an observer with his moon conjunct Uranus. He naturally wants to be more detached from his emotions, and they will change on him suddenly, so he'll go through a lot of emotional ups and downs suddenly, probably because he's not really trying to engage with his feelings, so he's gonna have those sudden ups and downs. And with that being in Libra and him needing a relationship, a lot of his relationships probably weren't fulfilling emotionally to him or to the person he was with. So, like he said, I believe he discussed it in 444, where he was saying that he saw women a certain way, and that caused him to treat them a certain way. And so now he's trying to be a better husband to his wife now, because he wasn't able to give her that. And looking at his chart, he really wasn't. It probably really was hard for him to settle down and really form a strong bond with Beyonce, because of all these sudden changes that he's going through personally, and a natural inclination to detach, but still having that need to be in a relationship. So he's forming these relationships, but not really being in them, not really, engaging in. He's just there. He's not really giving anything to them emotionally. He's just there, like. And that's probably how Beyonce felt for a period of time. Like, oh, I'm just here. I'm just a placekeeper for you. You just need somebody to, put on airs, and just 'cause that's what you're supposed to do, so to speak. I'm just here, just because you need a party. You don't want to be by yourself, so I'm here. Like, that kind of feeling. But not really being able to, probably share a lot of himself with her, and probably what he's going through. But now that he's getting older, I think he's probably learning how to deal with that a little bit more, and probably giving a little bit more, and trying to really commit to his family and open up, and not be so distant, not be so rebellious, and, kind of tame that wild energy, to one place. Now, the last aspect of Jay-Z's chart that I want to discuss, is his, let me see, I lost my spot, is his Mercury square Pluto. Mercury square. With his Mercury square Pluto, this brings an underhandedness to the way he operates at times, the way his mind works. And like I said, his Mercury is conjunct his Sun, so you have to bring all of that into it when you're looking at a birth chart. So with that Mercury square Pluto, sometimes the way that he communicates, and remember, I think this contributed heavily to the downfall of Rocafella as far as him and Dame Dash were concerned and what we were able to see from the situation. Mercury conjunct Pluto. Mercury is your mind, it's your mental capacity, it's your movements, things like that, reflexes and things like that. Little details, your mind, how your mind works, how you think. So, when you squaring that with Pluto, Pluto is your long-term goals. Pluto is your depth, your secrets, things like that. Death, taxes, Pluto. Think of Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, so think of those characteristics when you think of Pluto. So with those two being square, sometimes the things that he, like, the way his mind works, he's not always considering the long-term effects of the things that he does. Like sometimes he does, because this isn't an opposition where they like totally don't connect, but he doesn't always see how it's going to work out in the long run. He doesn't always take that into consideration. And with Pluto being kind of an underhanded energy, and that being square his Mercury, sometimes he can have a darker thought process, or be kind of manipulative in the way that he, processes things mentally. He can kind of, when he's planning something, like he can kind of be an underhanded, kind of a manipulative way of saying things. Sometimes he can do that. He has that about him. And I think that the Mercury square Pluto, that's where the communication breakdown came with him and Dame, because he's not always open and honest. Jay-Z, when I say he, Jay-Z isn't always open and honest about what he's thinking, or his plan, or he's not always open and honest about it, and he doesn't always have a long-term outlook on it. So with that being the case, when it came to him having a partner and having to communicate with Dame, and with him not necessarily being happy with the situation or what have you, it was hard for him to do that. He took more of an underhanded approach with changing up how he operated, because he had people start talking to him directly instead of Dame and stuff like that. Like he started doing it in a very underhanded way, whereas he started working with Leo or whatever he did that pissed Dame off. Dame hates Leo now, so him and Leo had whatever agreement they had going on under wraps. And, see how the Pluto aspect comes in. So with Jay-Z, what he started to do, his plan, the way he operated, was kind of underhanded, because he wasn't communicating directly with Dame, right? But he was going behind his back and talking to Leo and making all kinds of plans and speaking to everybody else, and then it left Dame feeling like, dang, I'm the last one to know. Like, I'm running in offices and everything else, and come to find out, you were the one who did all this. You were the one who started all this. Everybody else didn't have, well, they had something to do with it. They were involved, but you kicked all of this off, but you weren't. I can't say you weren't man enough, but you weren't being direct. You weren't willing to be direct with me about it. So now you got me out here looking crazy. Now, like, and now Dave feels the type of way about everybody else. When really, at the end of the day, Jay-Z was the one pulling out of the strings. And they recognized that after a while, I think. But like at first, he was like, he's thinking Jay-Z is rocking with him, riding with him. And it's like Jay-Z has that, that mutable energy, that opportunistic at times energy, that, and he has a cardinal moon, so he likes to start stuff, so he's going and going, he's not fixed like you. He's not doesn't need to stay in one place. And then he has his Mercury square Pluto, so he may move a little underhanded. He may think about how to get over sometime. That may be where his mind is at, how to get a one up. You know what I mean? He doesn't quite know how to, have depth without necessarily, trying to get the upper hand or trying to control things. He doesn't necessarily know how to do that. He sometimes see things from a very controlling perspective, a very, underhanded, very scandalous, criminal minded sometimes. He's criminal minded sometimes. What'd he say? 96, 92 bricks, however many bricks. He's like, he's criminal minded sometimes. Like, it is what it is. Mercury square Pluto. It is what it is. I'm criminal minded sometimes. Not all the time, just sometimes. But I believe that's what made Jay-Z move the way he did. He was trying to secure that position for himself before he communicated that, because think long term. So he's not bringing them together correctly, because if he had, he would have been able to do all of this without manipulating, 12, manipulating Dame and Leor and everybody else. He would have been able to accomplish his long-term goal without doing that, but he wasn't able to. So that was part 4 of Jay-Z's chart. We got into some of his aspects. We discussed how maybe in some of his relationships he is a little too idealistic and they may get him into trouble. We discussed how some of his underhanded, criminal-minded, ways may have got him into trouble when it came to Rocafella. We also, got into some of that mental energy. We got to see that he prides himself on being an intellectual, and that's very important to him with that Sun conjunct Mercury. We also got to see how his moon conjunct Uranus, may have caused him to be distant when it comes to love, and when it comes to people close to him. He may have trouble connecting with them, and maintaining that over a long period of time. He may go through a lot of sudden changes, and that kind of jazzes up that balanced Libra energy that just wants to keep up with the Joneses and needs a relationship. That kind of brings some distance when it comes to how he relates to people, even though he does need those relationships to feel secure. So, as always, thanks for watching. Make sure you kick back with some of my other videos. Let me know what you think down below. Come on with it.